right, let's do this. Meeting is called to order. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of West Miami Regular City Commission Hybrid Meeting. Today is Wednesday, January 20th. It is 7:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, could you please read the instructions for joining our hybrid meeting via Zoom?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This hybrid meeting is conducted pursuant to resolution approved by the City Commission on October 30th, 2020. The instructions to participate in the virtual commission meeting. The members of the public may join the meeting via Zoom at https://zoom.us/j/3255236059. For live remote public comments, the person wishing to submit the live remote public comments will appear in the TV screens in the City Commission and will be afforded 3 minutes to speak. Please submit your first and last name for the record. To access the virtual commission meeting by phone, first dial 1-301-715-8592. When you connect, a machine will ask you for the meeting ID, then dial 325-523-6059, followed by a #. Wait a few minutes until the host accepts your call and gives you access to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If we could all please rise for the invocation. Lord, this evening we pray for the speedy and healthy recovery of Chief Carlos Avila. We also ask that you watch over all the men and women that serve and protect us day in and day out. Grant us, the elected officials, the strength and wisdom to make decisions and vote in the best interest of our wonderful city of West Miami. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
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 Mr. Penna, for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Yes, item 3, roll call. Mayor Rhonda Rodriguez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Eric Diaz-Padrón.
Here.
Yes, present. Commissioner Candida Blanca.
Yes.
Commissioner Juan Blanes.
Present.
And Commissioner Luciano Suarez.
Yes.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 4, presentation of minutes for approval for December 9th, 2020 Special Commission Hybrid Meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. A motion to second, Madam Clerk.
Are all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any against? 5-0. Presentation of minutes for approval for December 16th, 2020 Regular Commission Hybrid Meeting.
Motion.
Second.
I have a
Are
motion.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any against? 5-0. Presentation of minutes for approval for January 6, 2021 Regular Commission Hybrid Meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any against? Thank you.
Next item.
Item 5, public comments. I don't see anybody from the public wishing to speak, Madam Mayor. Neither I received any email requesting to be at the public comments item
Thank you, Madam.
for now.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like a point of privilege, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to bring into consideration, since the time is racing with these two mutations, to bring the meetings in the morning until this virus gets under control. In my past life, I worked in a virology lab in New York, and I know the infection that is could happen.
Thank you, Commissioner. you're asking for a reconsideration of,
For in the morning, because of this two mutation, which is really very dangerous, and the virus is going up like crazy.
okay. Does anybody else have any comments on Commissioner Blanca's point of privilege?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what the time of the meeting has to do with the virus. But-
I think she's just wants to reconsider moving the time of the meeting.
Only until this passed through.
Which is how we had it before.
Exactly, and we went back. We did.
I have no with reconsidering.
It's not perpetual, it's something that is now, that is dangerous.
Mhm. Would anyone else like to opine on this? Commissioner, Vice Mayor, anybody have any comments on Commissioner Blanca's reconsideration request?
Yes, I think evening time is much better for the residents and it's more better for the city business.
Okay,
Because
Commissioner, we do to respect and excuse me, then I will appreciate if you come to the meeting in person like we are doing it. Because you go out in the morning every day. So I don't know what is the reason why we couldn't do it now with this pandemic, with this two mutation, which is dangerous.
Can I talk?
Sure.
Okay,
As long as you talk one at a time, everyone can talk.
evening hours is more convenient for everybody. During the day hours, some of us, even we are not full-time commissioners, this is a part-time, but we have things to do, personal or business. And in the evening, the residents is more convenient for them if they won't participate, as always has been done. Because Commissioner Blanca and you, Madam Mayor, for years has been participating in the evenings time. And Commissioner Blanca was very vocal in the evening times. Thank you.
I know that's the reason why, because of the pandemic, because of the mutation. You go out every day. I don't know what is it. Then you should come to the meeting here. And nobody comes here to the meetings anymore because they are afraid of the pandemic. Like to read something sometimes and get up to now.
Well, I have to say that I believe we were quite productive when we were having them in the morning. So I don't think morning versus morning versus evening has anything to do with productivity. We were very productive in the morning, and we had also a lot of participation from the public in our morning meetings as well. So I don't have a problem or an issue with morning, and I just wanted to hear from everybody else. Commissioner Blanes, any comments from you on this?
No.
No preference, no comments? Vice Mayor?
I strongly agree with Commissioner Suarez.
Well, I know you do, because you were the one that proffered changing it back to 7:30, so that's, I completely understand that. I'm in support of Commissioner Blanca, but as always, majority rules. So if the majority, Commissioner Blanes doesn't have an opinion, it's probably okay with him either way. Commissioner Suarez wants to continue 7:30. Vice Mayor wants to continue 7:30. Commissioner Blanes, would you like to go one way or the other on this, or remain neutral?
You know, I mean, I don't know. You know,
Okay.
I'm hearing. I mean, this is the time that we're supposed to conduct our meeting. 7:30 in the evening. That's the way we've always done it. We don't know when things are going to change. We're not sure if they're ever going to change. I kind of agree with Commissioner Suarez. You know, there's a lot of residents, you know, that will, you know, be more apt to tune in the evening since they are not working and they are home. They can participate. We did have some participation in the morning, you know, from some residents, but if I recall, they did have some dire business that they were very interested in that we would take up. So, you know, God knows if they had to maybe take time off from work to be there. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hear Commissioner Blanca, saying that, it's safer, but I don't see how that would make it safer. I mean, the virus is always working, right? In the morning, in the evening, at all times. I mean, it's not an evening virus or a morning virus, right, Commissioner? Well, I mean, what's the difference? If there are some kind of science, or some kind of evidence where that can be presented that can sway me, then maybe. But if you're asking me to make a decision, I'm more apt to stay having the meetings at 7.
Okay.
That was kind of long-winded. I'm sorry.
Mr. Attorney, let me just make a comment. I think I saw more participation from residents and the public in the morning when we had them at 10 versus in the evening. A lot more than we've ever had. So that's just an observation that I made, because I know that's something that everyone is discussing when the residents can participate. I saw more in the morning time than it's been ever. Mr. Attorney, go ahead, sir.
Do we have an item in the agenda on that issue?
No, I allow Commissioner Blanca point of privilege, and
I understand it, but my question is, don't we have an item in the agenda on that issue?
no, sir, we do not.
Mr. Diaz-Padrón?
No, the resolution that I brought past last meeting to solidify the time at 7:30, that is not on this item. It's not on this agenda.
Okay. I'm just asking, that's all.
So it is not, no, it is not on the agenda. All right, well, as always, it's majority rule. So if I have 3 votes to remain at 7:30 and 2 votes for morning, 7:30 wins. Commissioner Blanca, thank you for bringing that forward. Thank you all for your comments. Madam Clerk, next item, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can we stay in public comments for just one moment? And it's not a public comment, it's a comment from myself, but I want to wish Elliot Asbell a very happy birthday. For all of you who do not know, today is Elliot's birthday, and he's here. In
78.
His 78th birthday is today, so happy birthday, Elliot.
Thank you so much.
And thank you
Happy birthday.
for your birthday.
Happy birthday, Mr. Asbell from the administration.
Thank you so much.
78 orbits.
Or whatever.
Okay.
You don't look a day over 50 from this angle, Elliot.
And the same from up here, even closer, he doesn't look a day over 50.
Well,
I hope at 78, I am as fit and as Elliot is. So that's all I can say.
it just goes to say you can't judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 6, report of the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Commission. I hope everybody's doing well. I wanted to report on our chief's condition. I know that you mentioned him during your opening prayer, Madam Mayor. Our chief is in good spirits. I just hung up with his wife a few minutes before we got started our meeting. He's resting. He has an appetite. He did suffer a mild heart attack, and I think that thanks to the quick action that fire rescue took him to the hospital. And obviously I want to thank Major Delgado and also Detective Casanova for staying with him until his family arrived and until they knew that he was being cared for. So we pray for his speedy recovery on our end as well. And I will keep you all abreast of his condition. The next item that I wanted to mention is the city has issued, as approved by the mayor and city commission, a $75 one-time credit towards the water bills that have gone out. And this will be true for the next 2 billing cycles because we have 3 billing cycles. The first one has gone out. And some of the residents, I've actually been to the counter and I have personally collected payments as I do from time to time, and they're very grateful for your assistance during this global pandemic and work restrictions and everything else. So the notice was placed in the Facebook page. We sent a blast email. We also put it on our social media, and everybody seemed to be very, very pleased with it. The next item in my report is we're working with Robert Ruano, Mr. Pena, and I on the commencement packet for the FERDAP grant. This is the portion of the grant that covers the restroom renovations, I believe the barbecue at the pavilion. Juan, I want to say as well that this has to do with the resurfacing of the other basketball court. Am I correct, Juan?
The tennis courts.
The tennis courts. I'm so sorry. I stand corrected. And the tennis courts. The attorney that Mr. Villalobos has been working with submitted an opinion of title, and we are ready to submit a packet to Tallahassee, and then we will commission our fine engineers to get to work on the bids and the specification and all the documents that go with the startup for this project to take place. Following this project or tied to this project, not as part of the same grant, but we are tying the weight room expansion to this project. So hopefully you'll see within the next year a lot of activity at the City of West Miami Recreation Center. So we're asking John to brace himself because there will be a lot of activity coming up. And I think this is a good time to start. I also wanted to mention that some of you, I know the mayor and Commissioner Blanca, were downstairs tonight. We are reorganizing the office. We have we're decluttering the office, if you would, now that we have the passport office expansion area, which seems to be working because we're separating the groups of our City Hall visitors into the two areas. They're following social distancing guidelines. Mr. Quintana has put together a camera setup which will prevent, or which should help us not having to have that direct contact with the public during this pandemic, and it enables us to take pictures from behind the counter. So if you have a minute after the meeting and you want to stop downstairs, he's not done completely with it, but I think we have a good thing going here. We are scanning documents. We are in the midst of scanning. I want to say we have all the legal opinions scanned for the last 15 years. We have all of our payrolls scanned for the last year, and then we're going to go backwards and stay with the current ones. Our Florida retirement system summary of all the contributions made to the state, we're scanning that. And anything beyond 3 years, I think we're going to wait till the clerk advises what the destruction schedule looks like. But we're going to spend the next 2 weeks before we get audited by different agencies, focusing in on getting rid of our paper. And then obviously we're going to look at imaging possibilities as well as destruction schedules. And obviously there are some things that we won't be able to immediately destroy, but we're trying to make every effort possible to move the office along and bring it into 2021. That being said, I converted the accounting office, which requires 3 workstations, into the conference room, and the conference room is going to go where the accounting office was. So we're preparing it. We're going to have a door there, so to maintain certain peace and quiet, if you would, in the conference room, and I think you'll be happy with the outcome. But we're really putting out every effort possible. We hired a part-timer, and this lady is on fire. I got to tell you, she is an outstanding clerk. I can't tell you enough how quickly she's picking up on all the matters of the city and becoming acquainted with everything that we do day in and day out. And she's a breath of fresh air. I think Pete Delgado and Chief Carlos Avila, they actually recommended her. She worked in the police department. However, dispatching was not for her. So before she turned away, we picked her up, and it's working out fantastic. And I think that at the end of the day, we'll save money. And her name is Isis, and I'm sure you'll find her to be a very pleasant, totally bilingual, and very, very well-rounded individual. We also have some really good news on the freebie. As you know, our freebie program is becoming very popular, and the numbers have increased dramatically from the month of November to the month of December. And I spoke to Jason Spiegel last night around 8 p.m. In November, they registered 299 riders. In the month of December, they reported 409 riderships. And so I think that the extension of the hours have really been a blessing for a lot of the residents that need to run errands within the city limits. And it's picking up really quick. They're going to be sending out a mailing, which we offered to print the labels for them for all the accounts in the city of West Miami. They're going to be sending a mailing. Mr. Pena and I are working with FDOT on the FDOT, meaning the Florida Department of Transportation, on a grant that we were awarded for $36,000. And we are justifying right now, or putting together a budget so that we can go ahead and seek reimbursement for that grant for the extended hours and the Saturday, the weekend service that we have, that you have approved for riders and for people to use this service. And I got to tell you, I never in my life thought it would be so popular in the city. At any given point, we never made it past 110 riders in our city loop system during one given month. So I think that people are starting to really embrace freebie, and it looks like they may have some potential advertisement on the vehicle itself. And with a grant, I think that we will cover the expenses associated with freebie and not spend a penny more than what we were spending on the loop service. Plus, we don't have to pay the liability on it or the benefits for the driver or the cost of the vehicle. So I think that it's a win-win situation for the city and its citizens. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask.
Thank you, Madam Manager. I have to say that I am thrilled to hear that wonderful news about freebie. As you know, I've always been in support of it, and I was hoping it would do as well as it's doing. It is a win-win situation, and I'm just thrilled to hear that the residents are enjoying the free service, and that it is being used by so many more people than the hour loop ever was. So I'm sure it will even get better. So thank you.
It will.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the manager on her verbal report this evening? No, hearing none. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 7, report of the city attorney.
There's no report by the city attorney.
Thank you. Item 8. Yes, Madam Mayor?
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Oh, okay. Item 8, report of the city engineers.
Evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. I have a brief report just on the status of the water project. Since we last spoke, contractors nearly complete with the work on Sylvania. Visited the site today. They were doing the last tap up on the north end of the project. That should be completed this week, and we'll put down the temporary pavement on all those trenches. So hopefully that'll be by the end of this week. They should be out of there, and Sylvania should be, ready to go, at least until the final restoration is done. And then they'll be shifting over to the work on 58th Avenue. I'm not sure yet if they're going to start from the north to the south or south north, but they'll be starting work there on 58th, hopefully next week. And other than that, I think the manager covered most other topics. If there's any questions on the project, I can take those now.
I do have a couple, Frank, and it was based on some of the things we talked about at the last meeting. Were you able to address the contractors about the issue with the dust as the cars drove by? You were going to meet with them like the next day. Was that resolved?
Yeah, we met with them the following day, and we also, we met with them last week on another matter and have continued to emphasize the need for them to keep the site clean and water at the end of days. I've been out to the site a few times and driven through there. I think they've been doing a pretty good job of keeping the site clean, considering. So yeah, we've been in constant communication with them and just relaying the messages from the last meeting.
Any other complaints from residents or concerns about that?
I think there was one resident last week, maybe we had a meeting last week, and I believe there was, I don't recall which house it was, but it was something that they couldn't access their property at a certain moment, and I think they got upset. But
the residents' concern was addressed and was taken care of?
I'm sorry?
The residents' concern was addressed and was taken care of?
I believe so. Yes, it was just a matter of, I think, access or something like that at the time.
And one more thing, I know that the chief and the major at the last meeting brought up the situation with the off-duty police officers. Was that also taken care of?
We've talked to the contractor about that, and we had a meeting last week when that was one of the topics we discussed. At this point, the way that they were working, it didn't really seem to warrant having a police officer out there for that amount of time. It is a major cost for the project that I don't know that we have the budget for at this moment. As we move into areas that are more sensitive, definitely we'll have someone out there. But at this point, we did not proceed with that.
Major Delgado, was that sufficient for your department? Yeah, with Mr. Alonso findings on that, was that sufficient for you all?
I think we may have lost Pete Delgado, Madam Mayor, but I have to also, and I don't know, Frank, whether you saw it, they're putting barricades. I've seen the barricades off, so there's not a whole lot of traffic like it was in the beginning. I think they're doing detouring drivers from the area. They're putting up signage, and I have not seen the volume of traffic that normally we would see during peak hours there. And I try to go by every afternoon. I visit my mother who lives right off of Sylvania on 58th and 13th, and I make it my business to go around the area. And I've seen traffic, a little bit less traffic, if you would. I think people are.
I thought we couldn't do detours according to Mr.
No, what they've been doing is, on Sylvania, you have a lot of those like little triangles where the streets cross. So when they're working in that area, they'll close off sections that they can while maintaining traffic. So technically, they're not necessarily detouring traffic around. There's certain instances, I think, like today there was a pretty big trench there where they may have to like just detour traffic around the little triangles, but not a full-blown closure of the street where you have to detour them to 62nd Avenue or something like that. So
okay, well, I thank you, Mr. Alonso, for staying on top of this, and I believe Commissioner Blanes had a question.
Yes, my observation, I happen to live right there adjacent to Sylvania and 11th Street. The water truck's not been there. I don't think it was there Monday, Tuesday, or this evening. So they're supposed to be doing it every day. They are not.
Okay. Well, we'll address that with them. We had a meeting last week and we're very clear with them that needs to be done every evening.
Okay.
So if they're not doing that, then we'll address it. Okay.
We did have a good rain last week, so that really did help. But I can assure you that the water truck not come out every evening.
Well, I would tell you, on the areas that they've already laid down temporary pavement, they may not water. They'll probably, water more the areas where they still have open rock and stuff like that. So on the areas, on the southern end of Sylvania where they put down some temporary pavement on the trenches, we wouldn't expect them to water all that. It would really be the areas where there's still
The trench is uncovered. It just has dirt. There's really no asphalt or anything. So, and my other observation is the reason why there's not that much traffic there is because people just don't want to get their cars dirty because of all the dust when they drive by. So that's probably the reasoning why you don't have that much traffic. But we have dust, a lot of it. And number two, that they are doing it every day, they are not. And that is needed, yes, it is needed. And, so if you can check with them.
No, we'll definitely follow up. There's no doubt. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, we'll address that immediately. Now, on the good news is they're going to be out of Sylvania is really the street that we've been dealing with in terms of traffic. Once they move over to 58th, obviously there's going to be a lot less traffic, along the road. Yes, there'll be traffic crossing. So it'll be the same thing. We have to stay on top of them and make sure that they water and keep the neighborhood as clean as possible. But yeah, we'll.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question to
Yes.
Mr. Alonso?
Yes.
When I remember when I know the chief unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. I remember last meeting he did mention that, and he was the one who brought it up, that the contractor was supposed to be hiring off duty. And I know you spoke about that briefly today, but you said something that caught my attention, which was that you're not sure if it's in the budget. Can you speak to that? It seemed the chief made it seem like there was agreement on that, and I'm just wondering if that wasn't part of the bid.
Yeah, I can't speak to an agreement that was made with the police department. I really don't know about that. I could tell you that we did not have a specific line item in the bid. We do have a contingency account in the bid, and that's where that money would come from. We always build a contingency or an allowance account for the city to request any kind of additional services or any additional work. So that typically would come out of that. We didn't have a specific line item for it. We are looking at extending some lines through some streets that were not included in the original project, and that's where we would like to use some of that allowance account. So at this point, it's kind of there's, I guess, two issues. One is that, if there was an agreement made, then we need to have that discussion. And then number two is the budget issue. So.
Sure. And the last thing was there a line item in the bid for the water trucks? For the jet control?
That's part of their maintenance of traffic and their maintenance of their general conditions of the contract. That's in the specification of the project. So that's incidental to the job. There's not a specific line item for that. And that's why you have to kind of stay on top of them to do that. It's not something that they specifically do within a line item.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso. And Madam Manager, since I don't believe Major Delgado is present in the meeting and the chief is not here, could you please follow up on this off duty and with Mr. Alonso and have an answer for a clear answer for us for the next meeting?
Yes, I'll do better than that. I'll give you a follow-up in writing before the end of the week. I just requested from the clerk to provide us with a copy of the executed contract and between the city and Magog. And we're going to look at the line item and review the budget and look at the issue of the water and the issue of the off-duty. So we'll provide you something, hopefully, if not by tomorrow, by Friday.
Perfect, thank you. And even if it was something between the police department and the contractor, and it's not, it's not in the budget, I still want to get a follow-up or a definitive response or answer on that situation. Thank you, Mr. Alonso. Anything else?
No, that's it. I'll follow up with the manager and make sure that that's resolved.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone have any other questions for Mr. Alonso before we move on?
I have a question of, if I could, from either Frank Alonso or Juan. Juan, are we installing meters as we go along, or the meters come afterwards? The replacement to move them into these new meters?
That's the work that the contractor will do once he's ready to do the switch over to the lines after they're accepted by the health department.
Yeah, I
Is
think
the,
there's been a couple that, yeah, we don't put in the meters we don't transfer the meters over until the lines are certified, but I think there's a couple where we've already extended the actual service line to the new meter location, and then so there won't be along the main road, there really won't be a need to cut back in and put all those, the services are all along the back. So once they're done with the main line, they're gonna come back and then put the service lines that go on the back of lots, and then that's where the meters will be transferred.
and
So
the
it's all-
meter, the installation of the meters are a separate item in the contract or outside the contract? Is that something that is included in the pricing that was given by the contractor and as part of the bid, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, but the meters have been ordered, correct? I've signed some requisitions. I don't know if they've been received.
the meters are on site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 9, committee reports, report of the mayor.
I don't have a report this evening, and I don't hear any committee reports, so next item.
Item 10, unfinished business, none this evening. Item 11, under new business agenda items. Item 11A, request for mitigation of liens for code violations of the property located at 6287 Southwest 12th Street, West Miami, Florida, 33144, and owner Gina Diaz.
Madam Mayor, for the record, Gina Diaz has joined us on Zoom, and she is the property owner.
Good evening, Ms. Diaz. Thank you for being here. Mr. Penna,
Thank you for,
would you like to present this to us this evening, please?
This property was cited over 2 years ago for numerous violations having to do with the condition of the property, the amount of people living on the property, and our inability to get access, blocked easements, and overgrowth. And as of now, it is clear. All the violations have been clear, and the violations over those that past period amounted a little bit over $100,000.
Thank you, Mr. Penna. Madam Manager, do you have anything to add to this?
Yes, Juan, I believe that the property was also cited for lack of paint, general upkeep, as well. The roof had a tarp over it for a few years. I believe the owner will tell you that there was a dispute with the insurance company. I think the hedges are still not in compliance with our 5-foot requirement for the front of the property, but I mean, I'm sure that's something that the landscaper and the property owner can work out. To my knowledge, there were no structural issues, and Juan and I would be prepared after you hear from the owner to give you a recommendation.
Who lives there?
It's a rental property.
So it's a, so Gina doesn't live there.
no, sir.
Gina,
You don't live there. So this is an investment property for you?
I used to live there. I bought the property in 99.
You have to identify yourself, please.
My name is legally Gina Diaz. I currently live in Jacksonville. I
Your
used to live in
address,
the, pardon me?
Your present address, please.
Oh, my present address is 7795 Point Vicente Court, Jacksonville, Florida, 32256.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. So I moved to Jacksonville. When I lived in the property with my 2 daughters as a single mom, my kids went to Sylvania Heights. Whenever someone advised me, one of the inspectors will tell me if my landscaper will go to Cuba for a month or 2 during raining season, and they would tell me, Gina, your hedges are too tall, then I would immediately address the situation. Your roof is dirty, then I would immediately get my neighbor in the back, Frank. He would pressure wash either my roof or my fence. I always immediately took care of any advice that any inspector would tell me before it would get to this. I can tell you that I never knew of any of these violations. I pay my mortgage. I didn't let my house go. I care about my house. So I wanted to keep my house because I intended it to leave it to my kids later on. Obviously, I'm not anymore because of my financial situation due to COVID, but I never knew of any of this. And just so that you know, the water side of the city knew my phone number. My phone number has never changed. I have spoken to Sonia in the past. They had my address there for the water bill. So if I would have known of any of these violations, I promise you that I would have taken care of it before it would have gotten to this. I have been in contact with Martin from the moment that I became aware of all of these liens. I immediately called Mr. Pena, and he gave me the phone number for Martin Garcia. And Martin has been to my property almost once a week to make sure that I did everything up to code. And, you know, I took care of all of the violations immediately.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz. Mr. Penna, where were we sending these notices?
Unfortunately, Ms. Diaz didn't change her forwarding address at the property appraiser's office to her Jacksonville address. And therefore, by state law, we are to send all notices to the address of record, which is the 6287 Southwest 12th Street here in West Miami. The resident or persons on the property at that time chose not to forward that mail to the owner. We can't help that. We went as far as once we didn't get a return receipt from the post office for the violations, we also posted the property on the front door with the notices. Again, what happened to the notices from that point, we can't say.
So we can
I
only,
promise.
we can only send notices to the address listed with the property appraiser's office.
That's the law.
Okay. And what about phone calls? Do we make phone calls, or everything has to be written?
Everything has to be by notice of violation.
So we can't pick up the phone and call if we don't get a response from a customer once we're sending it from a resident phone after we send out multiple notices. We can't pick up the phone and call.
That's not procedure. No.
Sir, with all due respect, Sonia will call me and ask me, where do I mail your garbage bill? Because she has my phone number in the system. I have even sent copies of my license via email to her so that she knows that the change of address is coming from me. I did change my address with the postal office, but I didn't think that I had to call every place and say, change my address. I promise you that if I would have known of these violations, I would have taken care of it because I care about the city.
Ms. Diaz, if the post office had a change of address for your notices, they would have gone to your Jacksonville address. I could guarantee you that. We have return envelopes from the post office, not with the sticker on it, not forwardable.
Yeah,
So
no, unclaimed and not
unclaimed and
forward.
not forwardable.
Yeah, and furthermore, if I may, I actually took the time to contact the property appraiser's office, and we learned, I don't know if you've resolved that issue yet, but we learned that you were still applying for homestead exemption even after you moved out of the property and rented it. So,
well, when I was sure that I wasn't going to come back, it was removed. I do pay the full taxes on the house. My taxes and insurance are both escrowed through my mortgage company.
Okay, so Mr. Penna, you said everything has been taken care of. I'm looking at multifamily, construction, no city permit, building permit, utility easement, blight residential, repeat offender. Everything has been taken care of and cleared up.
Yes, there is currently some leftover supplies from the painting and the work that was done under the carport, and that needs to be removed once they're finished.
Ms. Diaz, you'll see to it that that's removed, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so.
I think, if I may, Madam Mayor, I believe that the property may be under contract for sale.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's wonderful. Wonderful for you, because I know you said, you know, your financial situation, so I'm very happy to hear that.
Yes, ma'am.
Do the staff have a recommendation as to what would cover our cost, our time on this case? What would be the recommendation?
We do, and Madam Mayor, there were a slew of violations on this file. And like Ms. Gina provided you with a statement that says Martin has been out there pretty much on a weekly basis. We've sent notices out that have gone unclaimed. We have spent a lot of time trying to attain compliance. And we treat these cases separate and apart from each other because they're all different because of the time spent on the file. And I think that our recommendation would be in the vicinity of $15,000 to mitigate these liens. I know that there are some pending matters, and I do know that there is a sale possibly taking place. And I would submit to you to authorize us to proceed with a $15,000 mitigation for this property. And by the way, Juan, I think that maybe on the most recent violations, it's been 2 years, but I can tell you that I go by there every day, and the violations have existed for over 5 or 6 or maybe 7 years.
There's no way, because I moved over here due to another illness at the end of 2015. And I have a little guy who's 5. That's when he was born. So he's only 5. So I go, you know, with the numbers there hasn't been anything.
It could be
even when I was there.
5 to 7 years.
What I would ask, if you can please reconsider, because my contract is for as is. I am not making any money. I can send you the payoff to the mortgage. I'm not making any money at all, and I don't have any money to dish out during these times out of my pocket. So I would ask you to please reconsider your amount.
We came up with a recommendation to the commission. It would be up to the commission to decide whether they're going to stay with that recommendation or perhaps you know, give you the courtesy of lowering that amount. This is not a money maker for the city, but we do have to make sure that we recover the time spent on the file. And it's not only Martin's time, it's Mr. Penna's time, Gina's time, my time. And like I said, this has been going on for quite some time. So it's up to the commission. We gave a recommendation, and it's up to the commission to accept it or modify it if they deem appropriate.
Ms.
Thank
Diaz,
you, ma'am.
where are you in the sale process of your home?
We were supposed to close on the 15th, but the bank asked for an addendum. So the addendum reads the 29th. So I'm hoping that we close on the 29th of this month of January.
Okay, I was gonna ask. Okay, the amount that that staff is recommended is substantially less than the fine, obviously. Usually we ask for it in 30 days. If we gave more time, would that be at all helpful to you, Ms. Diaz?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Attorney?
I would suggest that if they're going to close on the 29th, that you make a decision what to do now, because that might create some problems at the sale, and who's going to pay. And so I would respectfully suggest that you make a decision at this point.
Well, sir, we absolutely are. We're on that agenda item right now.
Motion to accept the recommended fine.
Motion to,
I
okay.
second.
I have a first and a second to accept the staff's recommendation. Now, as far as time for payment, like I said,
Should we vote on it first?
can we vote?
No, that's part of the item, right?
It's part of, did the clerk read the resolution already?
No, we haven't.
Madam Clerk, read the resolution, please.
Yes, item 11B, resolution of the mayor and city commission of the city of West Miami authorizing the city manager to accept a mitigation offered in the amount of $15,000 from Gina Diaz on code enforcement liens for code violations at the property located at 6287 Southwest 12th Street, West Miami, Florida, providing that if payment in full is not paid by blank, then the amount owed shall revert to the original amount, providing for an effective date.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Attorney?
I would just suggest that you could state that it would be pay at closing.
Paid at closing, that's less than the 30 days that we usually give.
Well, but you run the risk that whoever buys at this point might come and say, you might get a problem there. So,
Okay.
I think we should go with the recommendation of the attorney.
As always, I always yield to your recommendation,
Right
Mr.
on.
Attorney. And that's what we'll do at this time. So, based on the attorney's recommendation or advice, Madam Clerk, you can add the 29th or the date of closing. Mr. Attorney, can we leave it open as to the day of closing in case that were to change and not put a date specific? Because that date could change.
The date could change, and if I may interject something, I believe there's a 3-day rescission clause that would give either party time to walk away from the sale or whatever transaction.
Not on a purchase. No, not on a purchase. Only on a refinance.
we don't want to get involved in the terms of the contract. That's something that we should not get involved in.
No, I understand. I'm just concerned with putting a date, a specific date, because what if that date changes and we voted on a date? If we were to put at the time of closing, is that legally sufficient?
Well, the problem is this: if there's no closing, okay, and they say, well, we're not going to close now, and we'll get it from in a year. You can say that in case that there's no closing, then you have 30 days.
Okay. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, with one consideration, I know, Madam Mayor, you were leaning towards giving an extended time period.
I was.
So I would suggest if it's possible to do it as of closing and then provide an extended time period, because if the property does not close for whatever reason, we are in straight, dire financial times, and $15,000 is a large amount for an individual. So I wouldn't want to force the issue. So we can do it as a closing and then provide it, or this extended time period. I think that would be preferable to 30 days.
I would prefer to go 60 for Ms. To accommodate Ms. Diaz. Could we do that, Mr. Attorney, at closing or 60 days?
It's up to you. The time limit is up to you.
Okay.
What I suggest is this: if there's no closing, if there's a cancellation, if something happens, if somebody dies or something, then you will say at time of closing could come in 10 years.
No, I'm saying at time of closing or 60 days, whichever.
If you say or that you might run the risk that you'll never see your money.
Okay, then how should we word this? Please tell me.
But you have a lien on my house, so it doesn't matter, because you no matter what. So what if my sale falls through and then I have to look for another buyer, or I have to get it out of my pocket. Then I have to come up with that amount of money out of my pocket.
Madam Mayor, that was my recommendation.
Yeah, but Mr. Attorney, I know one of the trails of thoughts you were going on was to provide a date certain if there was no closing, to avoid the problem you're talking about. So how do you suggest we word it?
I suggest that you word it at time of closing, and the maximum is 30 days. And if it's not paid in 30 days, the lien would revert back to the original amount.
Right. So can we use that same structure, but with 60 days instead of 30?
It's up to you.
That's what I would suggest, Madam Mayor.
As would I, but I need to hear from the rest of the table. Weiss?
I agree.
Commissioner Blanes, do you agree with 60? Or 30, as the attorney is saying?
Why don't we do 45 days instead of or 60?
Okay.
That way we extend our little courtesy.
Okay.
And we don't put ourselves
60. Okay.
45 days.
45. Commissioner Blancas is saying 6. Commissioner Blanco, where do you want to go with this? 30. All right. Commissioner Suarez? Commissioner Suarez? Okay, I see him, but I don't hear him. All right,
Sorry, whose name did you say?
We're going with 45. 45 days. At closing or 45 days? Madam Clerk?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So 45 days at the time, either at closing or 45 days, whichever comes first.
Yes, ma'am.
And if not paid, the amount will revert back to the original fine.
The original amount. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Blanes, second by Commissioner Blanca. Can I call the vote, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
Yes, Commissioner Suarez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Blanca, how do you vote?
That was a yes, Madam Clerk.
Okay, yes. Commissioner Blanes?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Diaz-Padrón?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes.
5-0, item passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
I think we want to reiterate the amount of $15,000 because I'm kind of confused.
She read the release.
Oh, I know there was conversation, but it was back and forth. Leniency, non-leniency, et cetera. I think the recording clerk should
Madam Clerk,
have the amount of $15,000 in the resolution.
Can you please restate the amount of payment that is for the resolution?
Yes. 15, that the mitigation offer in the amount of $15,000 to be paid at closing or 45 days, whichever comes first. Motion by Commissioner Blanes, second by Commissioner Blanca, and 5-0, a voice vote.
It's still missing the attorney's last comment. If no closing,
Madam Clerk?
it reverts to the original.
Excuse me, Elliot. Madam,
Mr. Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Attorney.
did you include that it's not paid by that time, that it would revert to the original amount?
That's what
Yes, Mr. Attorney.
That's not in the resolution. I was just read.
Would you like me to read again the resolution, filling in all the blanks?
Incorporates
Yes,
and
Madam
reverts
Clerk.
the
Yes, Madam
original
Clerk.
amount.
Read it again.
If not, that was not in the resolution.
Please.
Read it again now. Read it again, Madam
Yes.
Clerk, please.
Resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of West Miami authorizing the city manager to accept a mitigation offer in the amount of $15,000 from Gina Diaz on code enforcement liens for code violations at the property located at 6287 Southwest 12th Street, West Miami, Florida, providing that if payment in full is not paid at closing or 45 days, then the amount owed shall revert to the original amount, lien amount, providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item is item 11C, resolution of the mayor and city commission of the city of West Miami authorizing the city manager to issue a payment to TY Lin International for services rendered in connection with the preparation and submittal of the 2019 Water and Sewer Atlas in GIS format as required by the Miami-Dade County Federal Consent Decree, Miami-Dade County Department of Regulatory and Resources Management, DERM, agency. Said funds to be paid from sewer phase 1 and sewer phase 2 reserves from fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020, providing for effective date.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, before you weigh in on the resolution, I would like for you to please hear from Frank Alonso, our city engineer, on the work that was accomplished here. This was work done during the time that I was away on a brief retirement, if you would, or hiatus. This is something that Mr. Penna and Mr. Alonso worked on, and it's regarding a compliance issue under the Miami-Dade County Federal Consent Decree for the submittal of certain database and atlases for our infrastructure. So I would like for them to give you a little bit of background, although it's attached to the paperwork. But in fact, the work was done and the bill is due, and it's before you this evening for consideration. Juan, would you be kind enough to explain to the commission how this bill got to, to the amount that it did? And I know, Frank, you had indicated to me that you never expected that much work to go into the submittal of the process. And I think it's unfair for us not to pay this bill to TY Lin because the work was done, it was submitted, and it met the DERM requirement. So Penna, if you could give a little bit of a brief history on this.
Back in 2019, the Department of Environmental Resource Management required the city to turn in a GIS information of all of our water accounts with GIS, which is Global
Information System.
Information systems on all our customers. And that required going into our water system and grabbing every address and name and location of the homes and locate them on a system to turn into them so that they could upload it to their master system. The city does not have any capabilities of this type of work, and therefore it was referred to TY Lin to do the work. It took many hours to compile all this information together because of our systems not being up to date. The only thing we get out of our system is a printed version of all the account numbers and the property information and present owners. However, there's no GIS information on that, and that had to be manually performed for each account that we have of water and sewer system.
Juan, this includes the new development as of the date, all the new developments, residential, and commercial developments. Everything goes into this report, correct?
Every water account. In fact, we are now updating it because it's been already 2 years since we submitted it, and it's required to be updated again.
Yeah. So if I can give a little more background as well, this type of activity is, things that we typically bill on a monthly basis to the city under our city engineer contract. Typically, those are minimal hours that we spend every month to represent the city on matters, particularly with the county, because we do have a lot of compliance issues as a utility that we need to report, not only on the water side, but on the sewer side, on our stormwater. So there's a lot of compliance things that we represent the city on a monthly basis. But those are typically, a few hours here and there, and we bill it under our city engineer contract. This particular task that was requested, well, not requested, it's a requirement of the consent decree as a utility in Miami-Dade County to provide this information. So this was, back in actually, it was in 2018 because it was due at the beginning of 2019. So We took on the task as we would typically do in any of these functions as an extension of the city. And really, it ended up being a lot of work, and that's why we're here before you, just in the spirit of transparency, just so that you know what was expended for that dollar amount. As Juan mentioned, not only was it basically digitizing your entire database of accounts, I think, which was a few thousand that we had to physically go one by one and put it into this database, but it was also digitizing the entire water and sewer as-built that we have for the city. So all the plans of everything that was built for the sewer, the water, the pump stations, all that was digitized and put into a global information system format, which is essentially a smart map. So it's a map that you can click on any little node and it tells you the size of the pipe, the invert of the pipe, the age of the pipe even. So it was a couple months of two folks just working to input all this information into a database. So now the city has basically a state-of-the-art GIS system of all of our infrastructure. And as Juan mentioned, it does need to be maintained every 2 years, which we're finishing up right now. It's not going to be in the same order of magnitude. The heavy lift was back then to really build that system and that model in GIS. And then every 2 years, we just got to go back and we have to update it with any new pipes that are built. So for example, on the next update, we'll include all the pipes that are going into the ground now. And then we do have to also update the customer database, which is part of the requirement. So that will occur every couple of years. And that will not be anywhere near the cost of this, but it will have to be something we maintain along with all the other compliance issues that we deal with. So
would that not fall under our regular contract charges?
Yeah.
So it would not be an additional cost.
No.
Madam Mayor, not on the retainer, if I may
not on the
clear that
retainer.
up.
Right.
Right.
This-
We have
these
an
are-
account, we have an account for miscellaneous engineering reserves now for these types of activities. The problem is that the amount of money involved here is over the expenditure amount that the city manager can authorize without commission approval. And it was for work done back in 2019. Because we have closed out the fiscal year, actually 2020, we actually have to go back and charge it to reserves because this is not an activity for the present fiscal year. In the present fiscal year, as Mr. Alonso was explaining, there's work that has to be done, but not to the magnitude of the $20,000. And we have a line item in the non-departmental account, like we do for the miscellaneous work that the city attorney does for us, work that is not related to his retainer. This is usually something that falls within the threshold of the city manager's office. Nonetheless, we always bring these things to you because there needs to be an understanding of the cost that is involved with running our utilities and the cost of doing business and being a municipality. But this one was outside the scope of our authority.
I have no qualms. We have to pay for work that was performed. That's obvious. My only concern here is how it was done. You're coming to us now to pay for something. We should have got an estimate. We should have known ahead of time, some way of knowing this amount was going to become due in a year, 2 years. You're coming, we're putting the cart before the horse here. So I have a problem. We have to pay for work that was performed, obviously. I mean, that's the way we do business. But I'm just a little concerned as to how it's coming to us now, 2 years later, after the work was done. That's all.
Yeah, I would just, I understand exactly what you're saying. And that's, typically for projects that we know are of a significant scale, we always provide a proposal to the city. We negotiate a fee for that specific task, and then that's brought before the commission. In this case, initially, since it was kind of under the purview of the things that we typically do on a month-to-month, which are a few hours in terms of the compliance. The compliance stuff typically is we need to fill out a form, we need to write a letter. It's kind of menial things. This one, we didn't think was going to be to that level because we already had some maps that we had prepared a couple of years back, and we thought, oh, these are fine. But you know, it actually was creating this entire database, and we didn't really anticipate that. And we had made I think we had made like a submission like a month before it was due, and it was not sufficiently to their standard because they wanted all this detail. So it was really a short fuse thing at the time, and we really we did it because it needed to be submitted. If not, the city would go into a moratorium. So we did it, and we just billed it, you know, as we would typically do these types of services. It got to the amount where the manager felt that, you know, it was beyond, well, not felt that it is beyond her purview to approve. So.
And I completely understand, but we didn't just wake up one day and find out we had incurred all this expense. This happened over a period of time. So my concern is, why wasn't this brought to us while it was going on? Again, we have the paperwork that was done. I'm not questioning that. I'm not negating that fact. But we didn't just say, oh my God, look what happened yesterday. No, this didn't happen in one day. It's happened over a period of time. So there was plenty of time for this to be brought to us. Vice Mayor, go ahead.
So on that point, you said something there, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you said that it had gotten to a point where the manager felt that that needed to be brought up. Have you been billing this entire time, or is it something that you brought out a year later and you billed it all at once?
No, it was billed quite a while ago, and so
Right.
we just never, I guess, got around to resolving that issue. It's been an outstanding bill on our end for quite a while. So
I wanted to, if I may give an explanation, and I think we met briefly and discussed the work involved in here. And I didn't know the magnitude of the work that went into the production of this GIS mapping system and how it basically tied into the consent decree. I mean, we've had these types of reports before. We kept putting it off, and because of COVID, we couldn't meet. We had the ability to meet via Zoom, but and then we started with the end of the fiscal year, and I wanted to see in what kind of shape we would finish the fiscal year. And so Mercedes prepared our year-end report so that we can have a sense of a snapshot of where the unaudited financials of the city were, so that we can bring this to you and tell you what our recommendation is as to what account numbers we could charge this to. I mean, we can sit here and point fingers that it should have come to the commission before, or the work should not have occurred without the work order being approved. The fact of the matter is that the work was done. It was done professionally. It was submitted, and you know, the bill is due, and I don't want to point fingers at anybody. That's not what I'm here to do. We need to bring it to the forefront and take responsibility and be more responsible next time, and you know, use this as an example. If we know that something is going to be over and above our threshold and it's not in the budget, then we have to let the engineers know to give us a very good estimate or proposal, or give us a heads up before the budget is prepared, so that we can present a line item in the budget and submit it to you for your approval. So I think that everyone failed. I came back in 2019. I returned to the city on February 1st, and I was presented with this bill a while after February, and we wanted to have additional information. I don't want to blame anybody. That's not what we're here to do. I think we all need to take responsibility and be more responsible for what occurred here. That's all.
And no one is pointing fingers whatsoever. That was not,
No, I know that. I just wanted to go on record to
simply, let's pay the bill. I know I'm gonna have to read the resolution on those guys. How many people in it? Let's pay the bill. Let's learn from it. Let's hopefully not let it happen again, and let's move forward. Commissioner
Exactly.
Roberts, go ahead.
Mr. Attorney, I'm sure that you're hearing everything that's transpired, right? for this issue. So, ultimately, we are going to have to decide. We decide if we pay or not. So ultimately, the finger is going to be pointing at us. So I just want to make sure that what we're doing is legal, is lawful. And there's nothing that we're going to do that is not going to, that can be contemplated as doing something out of the norm, how a city conducts its business with the taxpayers' money.
Mr. Attorney, you're on mute.
The city manager has a limitation as far as how much money she can spend or he can spend. So therefore, anything that comes up beyond that has to be paid and approved by the commission. The work was done, so it would be unreasonable not to pay. Therefore, it's up to you and your vote. But as I say, if there was a mistake and not done, nevertheless, if the work was done, I don't think that it would be fair or equitable for you not to pay it, my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Madam Clerk, have you read the resolution? I'm losing track of when it's read or not. Did you read the resolution yet?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
You read it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your hand is up. Did you have something to say, or is that hand up from the board?
Motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Need a second?
Second.
Call the vote. Motion by Vice Mayor, second by Commissioner Blanca. Commissioner Blanca, call the vote, please.
The second was by Commissioner Suarez, right?
Yes.
Okay,
I heard Commissioner Suarez.
it's by Commissioner Suarez.
Okay.
One
So,
moment. The motion from the Vice Mayor is to pay the work was done.
The motion is on item C, sir, the resolution.
Beg your pardon?
Yes, yes.
Item C, the resolution, yes.
The motion is to pay what work was done.
Yes.
Okay.
Item C, resolution, yes.
yes, motion by Vice Mayor Diaz-Padrón, second by Commissioner Suarez. Commissioner Blanes, how do you vote? Commissioner Blanes?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanca?
Oh, I thought you were, is that a vote?
Yes.
You voted yes, sir.
I thought
You
were.
voted yes.
Yes, but
His
yes,
vote-
I
his
vote
vote
yes.
is yes.
Okay.
On both counts.
Commissioner Blanca, I couldn't hear her.
Yes,
Did she vote yes? Okay. Commissioner Suarez?
I thought you was calling me, so I said yes.
Me? Yes.
Yes, okay. Commissioner Suarez, yes. Vice Mayor Diaz-Padrón?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
yes.
5-0, item passes.
Next item,
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
next item, please.
Item 11D, report and recommendation by the Office of the City Manager in reference to the 2021 Transportation Alternatives, TA, grant application cycle by City Manager, Director of Public Works, and grant writer.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Commission, we were notified by Miami-Dade County from the Office of TPO, which is the agency that granted us the $40,000 grant for the citywide traffic study, that they were opening up the window for the 2021 Transportation Alternative Grant Application Cycle. The application form itself has a criteria of eligible projects that we could apply for. And we had a phone conversation with Mr. Pena, Mr. Alonso, Robert Ruano, our grant writer, and I participated earlier, and we there's a window of time for us to be able to submit the grant application. Now, this grant is for 2024, 2025, correct, Mr. Pena, for that
Yes.
funding cycle?
Yes.
All right. And we are recommending that the commission authorize us to continue the work that we started with the traffic calmers that were identified in the 2020, the May 2020 submittal of the citywide traffic study. I believe there were some calming devices that were that met the typical exhibit that's approved by Miami-Dade County already or pre-approved under our interlocal agreement to go ahead and complete these circles with the ramping for the ADA, bringing light to the old models that were built prior to the newer models, and then bring light to these. These grant applications range anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million for these applications. So I think the four of us agree, including Mr. Ruano, that with $1 million application, we could conceivably finish our circles, enhance the ones that were built initially without the proper lighting and the proper ramping, and comply with the recommendations of the traffic study. But before we started on this grant application, which is due on Friday, February 19th at 5 p.m., we wanted to bring to you this this recommendation to see if you would agree that that would be the way this application should go. In the email submittal, there's a list of elements, if you would, that we can select from, and it goes from lanes for bicyclists and other non-motorized forms of transportation. The money is in there for sidewalk, for pedestrian and bicycle signals. Maybe we can get some of our signalizations, we can get them updated as part of our grant as well. Some of our signals are very deteriorated, and we actually did a study on that. We actually did a survey of all the signalizations. So we could conceivably put signalizations as part of the grant. So we bring it to you so that you could give us some direction and to see if you agree that this is where we should be focusing on right now.
Madam Manager, can it be all of the above, like you just said, the traffic calmers, the signalization, the lighting? Is that all inclusive in this?
All inclusive.
So what are you asking from us? Just
well, we want to know what priorities you have. If we're going to go to the study, we're going to try and aim to complete something that's identified in the citywide traffic study that our engineers conducted, which is fresh. It was done recently, and complete our recommended traffic circles and revamp our signalizations, put lighting, like I said, ADA ramping. That would be the way to go. That would be our recommendations. You can come back and say, no, I want all the money that we apply for, I want you to put it in sidewalks. So we bring it to you so that you can also be part of the process. We recommend that we follow the study and complete the traffic circles and everything that has been mentioned during this presentation.
How many traffic circles are left to be done?
I should have known that was going to come up. Frankie, do you remember off the top of your head?
Hold on, let me see if I have the
yeah, I
file
have
here real quick. It's about a handful. There's not that many, but we have some traffic calmers. The report also suggested a few speed tables and some additional stop signs in certain portions of the city. So it was a combination of different traffic calming measures.
The last traffic study, right, which we had the 2 workshops for.
Yeah.
So if we concentrate on doing everything that we found we had to do in the traffic study, that would be like one comprehensive package. Is that what you're saying? And the sidewalks are not part of that. No. So you're saying, do we decide on finishing all the needs that came out of the traffic study, or sidewalks? Is that what you're asking us to do?
That is correct. I think a decision needs to be made as to where we should concentrate with the bulk of the money that we're applying for. Frank, and I know we talked about this. Do you recall? I think we talked about the future to retrofit the older traffic circles and bring light to them and relook at the ADAs and the curbs and everything, the engineering that goes with it, and building the new ones would cost around $650,000, give or take.
Yeah.
Is that
I
what
think
we
did a
discussed?
rough- Yeah. And we did
That's a
ballpark
rough
and-
estimate? Is that a pretty
Yes.
realistic estimate?
Yep.
Okay, so we could probably apply for signalization money, which would maybe another $100,000. Juan, would you feel that that is too much, too little? I mean, we have a long list of signals that are in pretty deteriorated condition.
When you say signals,
Traffic signs,
Replacement.
street
oh, the street, okay,
replacement,
that's street sign.
replacement of poles and street signs.
Yes.
About $100,000. We had a study conducted or a survey conducted by the police department with specific locations on everything that needed to be addressed. So that would be $750,000. And if we're going to apply for $1 million, put $250,000 into additional root pruning and sidewalks. Would that be something that you would?
Can I interject? I have a question.
Commissioner Blanes, go ahead.
This quick study that the police department did for us, it was concerning the street signs, and well, isn't that Dade County that needs to do that?
It is Dade County, but we have to pay for those signs. They have jurisdiction over our roads, but we have a duty to maintain them under that agreement. Am I correct, Mr. Alonso?
Well, we need to stop and replace. Who pays?
That's correct.
In the end, you do.
Sir?
When we need a stop sign replaced, who pays for that? Because it's actually a Dade County, truck with Dade County employees and Dade County equipment that comes out here and does that.
Yeah, if you're talking about a citywide replacement, I would venture to tell you that under the agreement, we are.
Citywide replacement. What we need is repairs. Repairs. Now, if we're going to talk about those new signs that I spoke about a year and a half ago, those welcoming signs,
No, that's not this.
and the street signs.
That's not this. That's not this.
So, if we're talking about the traffic signs, the signage, no U-turns, stop sign, yield signs, one-way signs, we have dozens of these that are, that are down.
We have a huge list. Yes, sir.
They need to be either replaced.
No, back up. We don't have a bunch that are down. We have a lot of them that are not straight and plumb.
I didn't say down all the way, Mr. Penna.
Excuse me, let me finish.
45, 50 degrees, 20 degrees, all the way down, it's.
That's not what Miami-Dade County will not come out to straighten out a sign that's not plumb. Okay, as long as the sign is there, it is up. When the sign is completely knocked down in an accident or by some other.
They do come out.
They do come out and replace the sign and put it plumb again, and sometimes they'll put a brand new sign. That's under their purview.
Do we have to pay for that?
No, that's under their purview. But if we want them all replaced at the same time, they will charge us for it.
And I think that our signs are deteriorated, and by the time the funding cycle kicks in, if we're successful with the grant application, I think it would be very aesthetically pleasing to have them all replaced.
How
to
about
newer signs?
How about the welcoming street signs?
Vice Mayor, I see you. You're next, okay? You're next.
Yeah.
Your line is finished. Go ahead, Commissioner.
What was the question?
How about the welcoming signs that, we've been talking about for the last 2 years?
That's a whole nother topic. Let's
Yeah,
not.
but
Those are presently under design, and they are under review by Miami-Dade County.
Correct.
Yeah, we've already completed design on them and we're just waiting for approval from the county.
But that cannot be part of this grant. That's something
No.
totally different, right?
Yeah.
So let's-
No, we have a budget for that. We have a budget for that, Madam Mayor, and the engineering fees were approved for that.
Just hope that happens in this decade.
Hopefully.
All right, I'm gonna interject here.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Can we, and Mr. Alonso, maybe you can shed some light onto this because you work with the county on a lot of permitting and stuff. Is that accurate about the county will come and replace the sign if it's down, but if we're gonna do a citywide replacement, we pay for it? I mean, how is that structured? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way Juan put it is correct. You know, it's their signs, but if we're making a request to replace them because they're old or we want new signs, yeah, they're not going to come out and do that. They're only gonna do that if there's a damage or if it's a safety issue where they need to replace the sign. They're not gonna come out and
they'll allow us to do it.
They will allow us to. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have to go through an approval process like anything else with the county, but it's not an issue. I mean, that will be replacing signs in kind will not be an issue.
All right, thank you.
All right, so back to the beginning. You need our.
Well, I'd like to have your blessing. There's a lot of work that goes into this grant application. Thank you, Father.
I'd like to see as much as possible get done with this money. So if we can do some, if we can finish the findings from the
traffic study.
Finally, I'd like to finish something. If we can finish the findings and satisfy all the findings and needs from the traffic study, that would be great. If we could incorporate some of the sidewalk issues in that's fantastic. Let's maximize our use of this grant, pretty much.
I agree. I mean, it's not something that's going to be funded overnight, but I think we're in a pretty good position. I mean, we did good with a prior grant. We closed it out. So we have a good track record with the Office of TPO in Miami-Dade County. And I think we have a very good list of projects.
Okay, so all in favor of the manager and staff proceeding with this grant? All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? I have no one opposed, Madam Manager, so you have our blessing to proceed to try to secure this grant in the best interest of our city.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you all.
Next item.
Item 11E, initial report by the Office of the Mayor Rhonda Rodriguez, City Manager and City Manager regarding the need to establish legislative priorities for fiscal year 2020-2021 state budget by Mayor Rhonda Rodriguez and City Manager.
Okay, so we all know this has been a very strange time, very strange year, and we're upon the new legislative session. The manager and I had a call with Jonathan Tillman, I believe it was yesterday, and he had some recommendations for us. I was pretty much in agreement with everything he said. I'm going to yield to the manager. I was driving, so she was taking notes so that she can enlighten us all as to what Jonathan Tillman is recommending for our legislative priorities for this year. Go ahead, Madam Manager.
Thank you. I think that the big message there, Madam Mayor, and I think you will agree, is that we need to be very realistic with our legislative priorities this year because it is going to be a very difficult year. He basically said that Tallahassee right now is a ghost town. No one knows what to expect because I think that the main focus here right now statewide is the issue of the vaccines and the issues dealing with the pandemic. Beyond that, they've asked us to be extremely realistic. I think we have a good track record, if you would, because of the potable water system project that is underway. By the time the session is midway, we will be probably 75% along with our water improvement project, which is a record time if you compare it to other cities that get monies from the state. So we have the possible in the ground, and we are we're looking to finish hopefully before the summer. That being said, I think we talked about putting in maybe for $500,000 instead of $1 million, something that would be more palatable for them to work hard. Also, Mr. Kilman recommended that the commission consider passing a resolution at the next commission meeting, empowering the city manager to work with him, to work together to collaborate with the state agencies in case there are monies that are appropriated for grants with the different agencies, like we do with the Florida Department of Recreation on the FERDAP program. They seem to believe, Jonathan seems to believe, that instead of making direct appropriations, whatever money is being approved, they're going to be funneled, or they're going to be passed through monies that we would have to apply for grants in a competitive mode, if you would, with other cities statewide. So he's recommending that the city pass a resolution. And the resolution, by the way, Madam Mayor, I heard from Jonathan this evening, and basically instructing the manager at my discretion to instruct the lobbyist to support legislative appropriations to agencies of the state of Florida and other organizations where they can pursue grants on our behalf and programs that could offer funding and somewhat of a match for the requested amount from the state in some of the cases. So that's pretty much the bulk of the recommendation. We talked about the community center, and the appropriation for the community center is they have it in the general fund budget and they have proviso language, so we should be fine with the general appropriations. We talked about a funding amount of approximately $350,000 to run the community center program. We have a match from the city of about $250,000 that comes from the general fund as match dollars. And so obviously there's a priority in us working hard to preserve the funds for the community center, and again, go after FERDAP money. And we have a pretty good track record with them. But I think the message was loud and clear that Tallahassee has a big question mark over the Capitol building right now. And we should go beyond knocking on our lawmakers' doors. We should actually establish relationships with agencies of the state, which we have. But I think we need to get to work harder and see what's out there for us. I don't know, Madam Mayor, if you felt any different, or if you felt...
Just on the note of knocking on our legislators' doors, I told Jonathan, he agreed. We won't be making the trip to Tallahassee this year because there's absolutely no need. Obviously with COVID, there's all kinds of restrictions. So it's not worth our money spent to go there to possibly see, maybe have lunch or dinner with a legislator. We won't get any bang for our buck. So this year, we're gonna let Jonathan and his team speak for us. That's what we pay them for. So we will not be going to Tallahassee like we did last year to try to secure money. We're gonna leave that in the hands of our legislative consultants. And as far as that resolution, Madam Manager, he was going to send us some language.
He did.
So we can get that to our attorney, so that we can put that on the next agenda.
Right. He sent me some bullet points. So now we'll with the assistance of our city attorney, we'll put that in a resolution form for your consideration at the next commission meeting.
And the reason for that is if he sees, he's gonna have his whole team looking for these. So if something comes up, we might not have enough time to wait for the next meeting to give the manager the approval to go after that. So that just kind of like gives her and Jonathan, the blanket authority to be on the lookout if something comes up that we can use to go after it. That will be pretty much the gist of that resolution when we send it to the attorney.
Right. And Madam Mayor, I don't want to give a false impression. We do go after grants, any grant announcement that is out there, like the one we just talked about. moments ago in a prior agenda item. We are very much on top of the funding opportunities that come from the county, from the state, from the federal government, from the Department of Agriculture, anything that's out there that is a notice of funding availability. We look at the criteria for the grants and we decide whether we can or cannot meet the grant requirements. But I think Robert and Juan and I have been working closely, Evelyn with the community center and all the department directors, Major Delgado and the chief, with the Department of Law Enforcement. We just got $30,000 worth of computers and software upgrade for the department. So we are on top of this. I think we need to continue building these relationships.
Yes,
And I think
what that's for. The resolution is give you and Jonathan that permission to act quickly if it comes up.
Okay.
That's
All right.
it. Commissioner
Mayor, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this here would be no days.
I would think not. Good.
Will be no days. But some local officials, they will be there knocking doors. Very low profile, in a low profile way, but some people will be there knocking doors. So we have to keep our eyes open with our lobbyists to keep the opportunities. That's what I want to clarify with you and all the colleagues.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what Jonathan and his team will be doing for us. Exactly. Thank you for that, Commissioner. Thank you for that report, Madam Manager. Next item. Does anyone have any questions for the manager on that legislative priority report? No? Okay, next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 11F, update report and follow-up in reference to damages to sewer line on Southwest 10th Terrace and 62nd Avenue by City Manager and Director of Public Works.
Thank you. And I think we need to yield to our city attorney on this. We are trying to pursue payment for the damages caused on Southwest 10th Terrace by a contractor working for Comcast One. Is that correct? Mr. Villalobos, Juan Pena, and I participated in a conference call with one of the adjusters for one of the many subcontractors that were involved in that project. And we have about $100,000 worth of reimbursables that we're trying to seek reimbursement for. And I can tell you as of today, we have not received an offer to settle this or anything like that. The adjuster, Mr. Villalobos, left us with the impression that he had everything that he needed from the city and that he would advise us after he spoke to his client. Is that correct?
Muted.
We can hear you, sir.
Who was going to speak to our client, or Comcast was going to speak the adjuster speak to his client? Hello?
Yes, sir. What's the question?
I didn't understand what the manager said, so would you repeat it again, please?
Yes, I said that we had a conference call, I want to say a week ago, last Friday, with Mr. Nolan he's an adjuster representing a company that was involved as a subcontractor in the work where the damage was done to the utility on 10th Terrace off of 62nd Avenue. That adjuster advised us after we spoke to him that he had the big picture now of what had occurred, that he did not need anything further from us at this time, that he would go to speak to his client and that he would get back in touch with us. And I also reported that we have about $100,000 of reimbursables that we are trying to pursue payment. Is that correct, Mr. Villalobos?
That is correct. I would suggest that you write him another email and ask him what's going on. after the conversation, the conference that we held between yourself, Juan Pena, and the adjuster, you did send the adjuster a confirmation letter as to what had occurred in the conversation.
Yes.
Just that you send them another reminder that
Okay.
we need to find out what's going on.
He did acknowledge that conversation and said he would get back to us. But I think on Friday before the end of the day, I will send him back. It's been 2 weeks since we last spoke. Where do we stand on this? And I got to tell you, Madam Mayor, if we get nowhere with this, I think our city attorney should prepare a demand letter, because it's very fine and dandy that they're all pointing the finger at each other, because there were, from what we understand, there were about 4 subcontractors, and nobody's going to want to take responsibility for this.
Why are we waiting? Why isn't the city attorney doing that already?
This is something that the commission has to commission Mr. Villalobos to do.
Is that not part of what he does for the city? I mean, does not fall under his purview, under his job title, his services that he performs to the city, is going after things like this?
That could be the commencement of some type of litigation. I don't know if he agrees with that, but I'll let Mr. Villalobos respond to that.
We're not suing the company, we're trying to get our money. It would seem to me that's part of the attorney's job.
I don't mind to write him a letter and saying that where's our money. I just following the procedure that was established by the conversation that we had with the adjuster. Usually, whenever there is a claim, there's an adjuster, and we negotiate with the adjuster instead of going to litigation.
Well, I'm not suggesting we litigate. I'm just thinking an email or a letter from you is going to carry more weight than it is from the city manager. I mean, that is something you do for the city, right?
I don't mind doing that, but as I said, there was a conversation. It was a very nice conversation that we had. So I would suggest as soon as you hear attorney, the other guy is going to get the attorney and is going to get out of the adjuster's hands. Respectfully suggest that before you mention attorneys, that you have the courtesy by the manager to write him a note saying, as a matter of fact, I would suggest that she do it tomorrow.
How long has this been going on?
I believe, Juan, November 2018? I can't hear you.
You're muted, Pena, you're muted.
We discovered the damage shortly after May of 2020. And we did the repairs. We were done by July, and during July is when I first notified Comcast of the damage that they had done.
So we're almost going on a year. A year of being nice has not got us anywhere. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Don't these contractors have insurance? Are
Yes.
they bonded?
That's what
Are they supposed to
adjusted does.
operate with insurance in case they cause damage like that?
The adjuster is from the insurance company.
That's what the adjuster does.
Oh, so then you know what? Let's stick the dogs on them.
The adjuster represents one of the subcontractors involved. I think the
Insurance
company's
company.
name is what, Martel?
One of the
Martel?
That's the insurance
Subcontractors.
company. That's the
Right.
insurance company for the
Right.
subcontract.
All right, like always, we're always going to yield to our city attorney's advice. His advice is for you, Madam Manager, to write another letter. But I don't want you to come back to me 2, 3 months, 4 months from now and say, we still haven't got any money. Let's not keep playing nice if it's gonna take this long to get our money. So, Mr. Attorney, it's your advice. We'll take it. Madam Manager, write the letter and let's see what happens.
Got it. And I will report back to you at the February 3rd commission meeting and see if we get a response. But I think that this letter has to be a little bit more serious, if you would. I will send a draft letter to Mr. Villalobos for his review, and we'll send that out.
So see, Mr. Attorney, you can be the ghost writer, okay? The city manager will write it, you can prove it, you'll be the ghost writer, but it'll come from her.
I like that term.
Good plan, I like it. Any questions for the manager on this item?
Okay.
Item, Madam Clerk.
Item 11G, discussion on proposal to enact an ordinance concerning state of emergencies. This item is sponsored by Vice Mayor Diaz-Padrón.
So the next three items should be pretty quick. They're the step ones of possible ordinances. This one is in response to basically well, we've been caught off guard a couple of times during this pandemic, where we've had situations where we don't have a state of emergency ordinance, and that's kind of been a problem. I know of authority for the manager and the attorney. So the proposal would be to basically just create a very simple framework outlining the manager's powers, the public works director's powers, the attorney's powers, and then creating a very strong check and balance, but a very simple framework just to have something in the books that we can operate with under actual emergencies.
I have to say, Vice Mayor, I'm very happy to see that these came to the table as a discussion item. I'm very, very happy to see that. Thank you for bringing this as a discussion item before an actual resolution or ordinances.
Well, to be fair, I always bring on the ordinances, though our issue has been on resolutions, which I maintain.
Well, either way, I'm happy to see you're bringing it to the table for discussion first. Thank you for that. Is there nothing on the books now as far as state of emergencies?
I'll let the administration respond, but the answer is going to be no.
I'm not a manager, but I need a verbal. Is there nothing on the books?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. There is not.
All right, and what are your thoughts? What is staff's thoughts on this?
Well, I can tell you that I can share what other town managers and city managers do have. They have provisions in their ordinances, like Bal Harbor, if you would. The manager there has there's a provision, there's a section of the ordinance that grants the manager an authority to, and I'll use an example. We had to close up shop here, so he can invoke that emergency. He's got to establish, he or she has to establish that emergency for us to close City Hall. We did it here several times, and obviously you know that I reached out to everybody because there are no provisions in the city code that would authorize what the vice mayor has just brought up to your consideration or for discussion purposes. I don't have that authority under the charter or the code of ordinances.
I agree. I think that, you know, the way the things are going, you know, we can have a Martian invasion, you know, and none of us will be reached. So yeah, you need to make some decisions. Even though we're a small city, and we're all nearby, but you know what? That is something that would be very prudent to do. Absolutely, I would agree.
Generally, we do follow Miami-Dade County Mayor's emergency orders, and we have done so, Mayor, you know this, throughout the COVID pandemic. But there are some areas that leaves certain voids, if you would, that other cities have covered through empowering their managers to take action. At a time of a hurricane, once a declaration is made, then certain things need to happen, and we can put certain things in place and not necessarily have to call for an emergency meeting of the commission, which I would always recommend, because I believe that at times like that, all of you need to be involved. So
Communications can be an issue. So
sir,
I said communications could be an issue, and if you can't communicate, then what are you going to do? So I think
the idea would be a very simple framework. Obviously, it would come back to the table to work out the details if there's anything that needs to be amended or taken out. But to just propose a simple framework to give the manager authority, where right now it's to put it lightly, a gray area, and basically clean that up, because it did come up more than once during this pandemic, and obviously when you need it is when things happen that are unexpected, right? So I just think it's basically a housekeeping item at this point to have something on the books to deal with that.
Mr. Attorney, will you be drafting this ordinance along with Vice Mayor?
I think that the ordinance should be a very simple ordinance, and I'll be very happy to work with the Vice Mayor of and any of you that may have any suggestions.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone opposed to the city attorney working on a ordinance concerning state of emergencies? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Upon hearing no one opposed, Mr. Attorney, you may proceed with drafting that ordinance. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 11H, discussion and proposal to repeal, replace, and codify the current occupational licensing ordinances. This item is sponsored by Vice Mayor Diaz-Padrón.
So this one is pure housekeeping. The ordinance we have in the book now is from 1972. It was drafted in a time of a completely different government system that we had, and it's also has highly offensive language in it. To be frank, basically the idea would be to work with the city attorney, Mr. Pena, to just basically put the words to what we're actually doing today. And what we actually today, and actually give power to the words and then codify it. My suspicion, unless somebody can tell me otherwise, was that it was not codified in 1972 because they wanted to change. They wanted the ability to change rates. That does not really exist anymore. The state scheme, statutory scheme on changing occupational licensing rates is very strict. It requires studies, biennial reviews. They make it very difficult for you to change them, or at least increase them, or even create categories. So I'm not suggesting that. I'm strictly suggesting bringing the words of our ordinance to what we're actually doing today, giving them effect and codifying them, because they're not codified at present.
Mr. Pena, can I ask you a question, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, about a month or so ago, you and I discussed, or I brought it to your attention that we needed to look at a lot of our ordinances and bring them up to date. And that we're going to come up with some of the ones that you thought were the most pressing, or the ones that we use the most, and you were going to send those to planning and zoning. Does that fall within that? Does this fall within that discussion you and I had? And are you working on doing that and sending some of those ordinances back to planning and zoning, or bringing a list to us so we can tell you which ones we think should go back to planning and zoning to bring them up to speed, up to date?
No, the occupational license ordinance would not fall under that because, like Vice Mayor says, Section 205 of the Florida statutes is very strict since 1995 when they changed it to limit us as to what we can do as far as raising rates, which would be the only reason why we would bring it back. In order to do that, you need to do all kinds of comparative studies with municipalities of the same size and in the same area as us to see what they're charging and be able to bring it up to whatever the highest established rate is at that time. This would not have been brought back. The fact that it may have offensive language, I really haven't read it in its entirety, so I couldn't tell you. But if he says so, I believe him.
So we're going to do all this just for offensive language? I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but is that the intent and purpose of this, is to remove the offensive language?
No, it needs a total. I had the clerk put the resolution, the ordinance, because it's not codified in the agenda packet. But it is not. It is basically. I mean, it's basically we have a sort of a fake ordinance right now. It was written at a time when we had a mayor, council form of government, and it throughout the entire ordinance it refers to the mayor as tax collector, and gives that tax collector the ability to revoke licenses and create categories, as well as other things that just do not exist anymore throughout the entire ordinance. The only thing good about the ordinance left is the categories and rates, which again I'm not proposing we change because of the restrictions. I'm just simply saying we have a way that Mr. Penna runs his department, how he does the occupational licensing today. And I just want to work with him and the attorney to bring the words of the ordinance to how we're actually doing it.
And in reading right now, like section 27, if I may add, I just read something to the effect that any violations of any terms of this ordinance would be heard before a municipal court in the city of West Miami. And it says here, it talks about a fines and prison terms, and of course, everything under the discretion of a municipal judge. And we no longer have this setting, if you would.
Nor do we have the
Now,
jail.
we don't even have the holding cell anymore. I would also like to offer something. I believe that the occupational license structure has to go through, anytime you want to change rates, has to go through an equity study commission. And under that chapter, Juan, that I believe you mentioned, and it has to have, members have to come from the business community. And we've tried that in the past.
Well, no, but let me clarify, Madam Manager. I'm not talking about adjusting the categories or the rates.
Okay.
I'm simply talking, and I've reviewed, right, and you can, if you maintain the rates or lower them, there's no need to go for an equity study or a biennial review or anything.
Correct.
So that's what I'm proposing to do to clean it up.
Well, I hate to break it to you folks, but if you're calling this one a fake one because of the language, we have a lot of fake ordinances because these ordinances haven't been looked at in a very long time. And Ms. Bennett, that's what I meant when I had that conversation with you. We need to bring our ordinances up to date.
Right. And I'll just tell you, I'm sorry. I read pretty much the entire code of ordinances. This one is particularly bad. And I think the reason for that is because it was not codified. So no one ever looks at it. So
this is the tip of the iceberg, because I would imagine there's a lot of others.
Right. In fact, this one is the only one that will refer to a different form of government and municipal court. It is the only ordinance that carried over from when we completely changed the code of ordinances in the 80s. It was not codified. It was just referred to. So it is the only ordinance that would have any of this language.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is all in favor of item H?
Aye.
All right.
Not item I, item H. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Upon hearing no one opposed, Mr. Attorney, can you please work on item H along with the Vice Mayor and staff?
Yes, I will.
Mr. Penna, can I look forward to your bringing to us the other ordinances that you think we should send back to planning and zoning and have them brought up to date?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good, thank you.
Since you brought up, I don't know if I should say this at the good of the order or now, but this is in regards to an ordinance that we had talked about previously, and it has to do with fencing material. I have a couple of residents, that have been calling me because they want to do a fence, not with wood or metal, but they want to do it with that new composite material. And I think we had a discussion during one of the commission meetings.
It's going to planning and zoning.
Where you, Mr. Penna, said that this is going to go to planning and zoning, but when? When is that going to happen? Because, it's been a while, and, these people want to redo their fence, and they want to use that composite material, but we need to change our ordinance to allow for that. So when is that going to happen?
It's going to the board next week when they meet for the very first time.
Next week. Okay.
Wonderful.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving in the right direction then. Item I, Madam Clerk.
It's item 11I, discussion and proposal to amend and codify requirements for the registration of lobbying and consulting in the city of West Miami, sponsored by Vice Mayor Diaz-Padrón.
So this is the last one. We have a resolution that was passed in 2003 on registration of lobbyists. It's my opinion, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, we might want to look at, and if it gets brought back to the table, just to see if the rates are to par, the registration rates and things like that, because it's been 18 years. But you know, I think it's, in my opinion, the resolution should be an ordinance and should be codified to give it an effect of local law, give it teeth. So it's something, I don't think there's anything wrong, and I had it included in the packet. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the resolution. I just don't think it should be a resolution. I think it should be codified as an ordinance.
Mr. Attorney, your opinion on that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the Ethics Commission had a city attorney's meeting last week precisely on this issue. As a matter of fact, there was some 20 lawyers participated in that, including the former Ethics Commission director. And we were discussing the fact that absent any ordinance that that the municipality have, the municipality must follow the guidelines of the Ethics Commission as codified in the county ordinances.
And that means to me, what's your opinion on it? On what the Vice Mayor is bringing?
I think that it would be excellent.
Wonderful. Your timing, Vice Mayor, is impeccable. Were you aware of that meeting?
I actually was not. I had this conversation with Mr. Villalobos after I put on the agenda, and he advised me of that meeting that happened after we spoke. So it was actually pretty decent timing.
Wonderful. Seems like great
Thank you.
Seems like great minds think alike. All in favor of item I?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Madam Clerk, no one's opposed. Mr. Attorney, please work with staff on item I. Next item.
Item 12, consent agenda items, none this evening. Item 13, good of the order.
I got a couple of things.
Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I on the chat, on the Zoom chat, I put a phone number there. It's Mago's phone number, and Mago de las Fritas. I put his phone number in there, and you know, I don't know if you all know, but he's been sick, and he's doing better. So I gave him a call the other day, and he was so happy I called. And I have his number here, and you know, he's expecting everybody to call him. So the number is there, 305-898-8778. So if you give him a call, it'd be great. I couldn't get him off the phone. So.
Yes, thank you for that. I have been in contact with his daughter, and every time I go for lunch, I speak to the ladies there. And he is doing better.
Yeah.
He is doing better.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Blanes. Thank you very much.
And the other thing is, I had a friend of mine call me. He said he went to our to City Hall to renew a passport for him and his mother, and he actually went out of his way and called me and told me that he had not been treated so nicely anywhere here in Miami-Dade County. And he went on and on and on, and he said that he was going to write a letter. So I directed him to write the letter to our mayor, and he wanted to come and identify the person that was so nice to him, and you know, because he couldn't remember the name. So you know, I told him, you know, great, write the letter. You know, we have many of them, and so he is going to write a letter.
That is fantastic. You know, and along those same lines, I have to say that I've gotten a couple of emails from residents who are expressing their gratitude for everything we've done, the improvements on Sylvania, the potable water lines, the $75 water credit, and they're just so happy with everything that this group that we've been able to achieve for them. And like I said, I told them that I would let everyone know that, that we all appreciate when residents let us know that they're happy with what we're doing and it's all going great. So with that said, thank you all. Residents are noticing. They're noticing the great things that we are being able to accomplish. So for that, I thank you. And I want to wish you all a pleasant evening. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.